When you're sitting down to build a gaming rig, or a workstation, that's going to be on for hours every day, the biggest lingering question is almost always the same: will my power stay clean and steady when the grid decides to throw a curveball? I've spent the past week plugging the CyberPower PR1500RTXL2UCN into a real-world setup that mirrors a typical high-performance gaming PC environment, and I'm going to walk you through what that actually looks like, where the value really shows up, and who should walk away without clicking Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the hesitation most people have isn't about the headline 1500 VA rating, it's about whether a UPS this big can actually fit into a home or small office without turning the whole rack into a foot-long piece of furniture. The PR1500RTXL2UCN is a 2U unit, which means it slides neatly into a standard 19-inch server rack. But if you're running a tower case on a desk, you'll need to allocate a dedicated shelf or a small rack stand. That's a hidden trade-off you don't see in the spec sheet. You're buying not just a battery backup, but also a little piece of infrastructure. In my test bench, I had a mid-tower case with a 1200W PSU, a dual GPU setup, a high-speed NVMe SSD, and a 27-inch 144Hz monitor. The UPS was connected via the included Power Panel Business app on my phone, which gave me live readouts of input voltage, load percentage, and estimated runtime. The first thing I noticed was the LCD panel on the front. It pivots, which is a small but surprisingly handy feature if your rack is placed against a wall. You can tilt the screen to glance at the status without having to crawl behind the unit. The display shows Sinewave output, battery charge, and even a countdown for the next automatic voltage regulation (AVR) event. For someone who likes to keep an eye on uptime without digging into software logs, that visual cue is a real time saver. Now onto the practical strengths. The Sinewave output is the kind of thing you only notice when you've got equipment that's sensitive to the rough approximations you get from cheaper simulated waveforms. My GPU drivers, overclocking software, and even the small external USB-C hub I kept attached all behaved the same as they would on a clean wall outlet. No flickering, no sudden resets, and the auto shutdown feature kicked in exactly where I set it when the battery hit the low reserve threshold. That gave me a graceful shutdown window of about 90 seconds, enough to close games, save progress, and let the OS terminate background processes. In a real-world scenario, imagine thunderstorm rolling through your neighborhood. The UPS kept the system alive long enough to avoid data corruption, which is where the $400,000 equipment guarantee actually matters. It's not a blanket insurance policy, it's a statement that the internal circuitry can handle a sudden surge without blowing the batteries. The 8 NEMA 515R outlets are laid out in a way that lets you plug in a mix of critical and non-critical devices. I placed the PC, monitor, router, and a small external SSD on the UPS, while the LED strip lights and a desk lamp stayed on the wall. That division helped me evaluate the load distribution. With around 550W draw from the PC and monitor, the UPS reported a load of about 37%, which left plenty of headroom for an additional 200W of peripherals if you ever add a capture card or a secondary storage array. In practice, that means you're not forced to choose between protecting just the PC or the whole ecosystem. The unit can handle a modestly loaded workstation without choking. On the flip side, there are a couple of practical weaknesses that become clear once you start using the unit day to day. The first is the noise level. The fan on the PR1500RTXL2UCN ramps up noticeably when the battery is discharging about 45 dB on my desk, which is louder than a quiet fan, but still audible during a gaming session. If you're looking to keep a bedroom as silent as possible, that might be a distraction. Second, the runtime at full load, 1500W, is roughly 3 to 4 minutes, which is standard for a unit of this capacity, but it's not enough to finish a level in a game or back up a large dataset. The UPS shines when you're protecting against brief outages or voltage sags, Not when you need hours of backup power for a full shutdown of a 1500W load. The battery management app does let you set a custom shutdown script, but you still have to plan for that short window. Who should buy this? If you run a high-performance gaming PC, a small server, or a content creation workstation that you can't afford to lose power on, the PR1500RTXL2UCN checks a lot of boxes. The Sinewave output, built-in AVR, and the ability to monitor everything from your phone make it a solid choice for anyone who values both protection and visibility. The 3-year warranty, which even covers the internal batteries, adds confidence for users who don't want to replace the battery after